Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we spotlight leaders shaping the future of business, technology, and global industry. I'm your host, Dr. Leanne Aguilar. Today, I'm joined by Shawn Kim, founder and CEO of Between Bits, a South Korea-based startup specialized in the Bitcoin Lightning Network, with more than 17 years of experience spanning IT, international trade, travel, and real estate. Shawn has built a career at the intersection of innovation and execution. Now he's channeling that expertise into Bitcoin and blockchain technologies, helping organizations unlock faster, more inclusive, and more secure financial systems. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Hello, Dr. Leanne. Thank you for having me today. Happy to be here.
I'm looking forward to our conversation. So, Shawn, you've had a diverse career spanning IT, trade, travel, and real estate. What experiences shaped your approach to business and innovation?
Yes, that's right. My career has always been a bit unconventional. I actually started out in a trading company because back then in Korea, trade was seen as the main path forward. But pretty soon I was drawn into IT, especially home network, which at the time looked very promising. But the market didn't fully take off because of compatibility issues. But in hindsight, it was the beginning, I think, of what we now see with AI and IoT. Later, I became interested in travel, not the big resort model, but small group adventures where local communities could benefit from them directly. I believe that tourism should strengthen cultural diversity, not erase it. It was meaningful, but the Korean travel culture wasn't quite ready for that idea. Around the time, I discovered Bitcoin, and immediately I knew this wasn't just a light trend. It was not only a completely new kind of money with enormous potential, but also totally brand new world frame, which could protect the freedom and diversity of individuals. So I wrapped up what I was doing and completed a blockchain strategy program at Oxford and joined the startup world. I remember that was 2017 something. And then, not long after, I realized the real innovation wasn't just blockchain technology, but Bitcoin itself. That led me to found Between Bits in early 2023, focused on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And that's what I've been building ever since.
Great. Yeah, quite a journey there. So tell me a little bit more about what first drew you into Bitcoin and blockchain, and why did you decide to focus on the Lightning Network?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, once I started working in this field, reading deeply and reflecting on it, it didn't take long for me to realize that Bitcoin was the only really big thing. Why? Because it achieved something that had only ever existed in the physical world, scarcity, and brought it into the digital world. For example, Ian, if you go to a market to buy something, you hand over the money and receive your product. It doesn't matter who the counterparty is, as you are physically exchanging that money. However, in digital world, if you receive money, there must be a receipt of who made the payments, whether it's a valid person or not, because what you received might be just a copy or counterfeit. Bitcoin made it happen to bring the simple but profound characteristics of money of real world to digital world. That was a huge leap forward, and once I saw it, I knew I couldn't focus on anything else. Now, the Lightning Network, to me, is the catalyst that is going to speed up Bitcoin adoption. Bitcoin already has its direction set, but Lightning has the potential to bring that future closer. It's a brilliant combination of cryptography and game theory that allows Bitcoin's absolute trustworthiness to extend off-chain, real world, making it faster, more scalable, and much more practical in everyday use.
So looking back, was there a defining moment when you knew that you wanted to launch Between Bits?
Yeah, definitely there was. When I first entered the blockchain industry, I was struck by how disruptive Bitcoin really was. And by disruptive, I don't mean negative. I mean, it was bound to change everything. There's one important part that many people are missing. What made Bitcoin revolutionary wasn't just the technology. It was the creation of digital scarcity, something the world had never seen before. Yes, cryptography was critical for it, but the design also reflected a deep understanding of human behavior and economics. That's why I believe Satoshi wasn't just a brilliant technologist, but someone who also understood people and society on a deep level. In contrast, much of what followed in the blockchain industry space felt very surface level. Too many buzzwords and flash concepts, but often the same logic were old models repackaged as if they were new. And I was so tired of it, so I made a decision. I wanted to focus on the real innovation of Bitcoin itself and build on top of that. The Lightning Network, which is a layer 2 network of Bitcoin, gave me the way to do it. And that's what eventually led to Bitcoin Bits.
Very exciting. Yeah, so you just saw really the potential for innovation there in an industry that had started that was still novel, but just a different twist on and a different potential as well. So, how has your global perspective from South Korea to international markets shaped the way you see opportunities in crypto and fintech?
Well, in my opinion, Bitcoin's breakthrough was creating digital scarcity, a store of value that doesn't depend on governments or banks, etc. That makes it a truly borderless network for storing and moving value. And it also provides access to so many people who have never had a bank account. Let me ask a question for you, Leanne. Do you know the number of unbankers in the world at the moment?
I
Unbanker,
don't.
I mean the people don't have access to bank directly. Yes,
No.
yeah. 1.7 billion, Lian.
Oh, wow.
1.7 billion people do not have direct access to the existing financial network. So, in that sense, whether you are in South Korea or anywhere else, we all face the same reality of adapting to Bitcoin's changes. But the difference is countries with weaker or outdated financial infrastructures will feel the impact first. In developed countries, Bitcoin is often seen primarily as an investment asset to hedge inflation. But for the 1.7 billion people in the world without access to formal banking, Bitcoin arrives as a tool for survival. There is an interesting and important point here among them. 1.7 billion, Lian, if you don't mind, give it a shot again. How many people among 1.7 billion have mobile?
I would think a good percentage of those
Mm-hmm.
would have would have access to mobile.
Yes.
Maybe
Surprisingly,
30%?
more than that. Surprisingly,
Really?
about 1 billion already have
Okay.
their own mobile at the moment. And of
Yeah.
course, the number is going up and up. And that's
Right.
precisely And that's precisely why, even though I founded the company in South Korea, we are pushing into Southeast Asia first. It's where Bitcoin can make the most immediate, tangible difference because Bitcoin needs nothing but internet and mobile.
Oh, wow. That is a huge opportunity. Yeah, I did not realize those statistics. Thank you for sharing that. So, for listeners who may be new to it, can you explain what the Bitcoin Lightning Network is and why it matters?
Okay, I was waiting for this. I think this is a very important point for me. And actually, this is the very reason why I'm here today, I think. To understand the Lightning Network, you first need to understand Bitcoin. For the first time in history, Bitcoin created trust without a central entity by introducing digital scarcity, a system where creating value requires energy. There's no other way. And cheating the system costs even more. That's what makes the Bitcoin network so trustworthy. The Lightning Network builds on that foundation. It makes Bitcoin faster and cheaper to use without sacrificing this security. By combining cryptography with game theory, it allows Bitcoin's trust network to scale to everyday life. In short, Lightning is what makes Bitcoin practical. For example, if you want to send a small amount as cross-border remittance, usually it takes 2 or 3 days and the fees will be very expensive even for micropayments. But Lightning Network makes it instant and almost to zero fee. This is the very reason we need it.
Oh, yeah. So it's a lot more practical, a lot more affordable, a lot quicker, is what I'm hearing. So it would especially serve the demographics that you were talking about, the ones who currently do not have access to a banking system.
Yeah.
So, what problem is between bits solving for businesses, and why is your solution different from what already exists?
The answer is actually quite simple. If I were to describe our mission in abstract terms, it's that we want to bring the world's most energy-efficient value network, the Bitcoin, into traditional financial infrastructure. Now, to put it more concretely, our work is about enabling solutions that make storing and transferring value far faster and far cheaper than what's possible today. We do this by integrating with legacy financial infra, banks, credit card system, etc., sometimes in a mixed and match fashion, and sometimes as a full replacement. The point is to make Bitcoin's efficiency practical and accessible in real financial systems. Bitcoin provides both businesses and individuals with the most reliable way to store value, their money simply, and the most efficient way to transfer it. And for financial institutions, we provide the tools and solutions that make this transition possible.
So, you're pioneering stablecoin transactions on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Why is this such a breakthrough?
Um, I think the rise of stablecoins is closely tied to the U.S. Treasury bond market. As the U.S. looks for ways to sustain demand for Treasuries, stablecoin issuers around the world are being encouraged to issue dollar-backed coins, and that trend is only going to grow. The real competition then won't just be between issuers, but between the networks where these stablecoins live. Today, Ethereum and Tron Network, etc., lead that space, but in the long run, Lightning Network has fundamental advantages: stronger security, true neutrality, real-time payments, and very low fees. In a nutshell, I think for now, Lightning Network is the best candidate, making online micropayment possible. That's why stablecoin transactions on Lightning are such a breakthrough. They combine the global demand for dollar stablecoins with the most efficient payment network ever existed. And that's where we believe the future is heading.
Great. Yeah. How do you see Bitcoin stablecoins and fiat currencies coexisting in the financial ecosystem?
Yes, I love this question. It's a very practical one. To start with the conclusion, yes, they all will certainly coexist for some time, perhaps even indefinitely. Now, Bitcoin doesn't really compete with the dollar or with stable coins, at least not primarily. Instead, Bitcoin competes with assets like real estate, art, or stocks, alternative stores of value. Stablecoins likewise don't compete directly with fiat currencies themselves. The competition there is mainly between stablecoins and also between the infrastructures on which they are issued and circulated. What's less clear is how much room local fiat currencies will have in a world dominated by dollar stablecoins. That's because the meaning of a stablecoin isn't simply the digital version of a national currency. Its significance lies in the fact that money, which used to remain within the borders of a single country, now moves freely across borders on global digital network. So, if the US government continues to encourage the global spread of dollar-based stablecoins, then it's logical to assume that many local currencies will see their sovereignty challenged. Dollar stablecoins will circulate across borders, following the rails of the internet and mobile, and individual governments won't have many effective tools to stop it. So yes, Bitcoin, stablecoins, and the dollar will coexist, perhaps permanently, but the fate of local currencies in the face of global dollar stable will likely differ from country to country.
Yeah. Between Bits is expanding beyond South Korea into Singapore and Vietnam. What makes Southeast Asia an attractive starting point for that expansion?
Um, yes, stablecoin is a game changer. In my opinion, it will spread fastest in regions where local currencies are weaker. Southeast Asia is one of that kind. It's especially hard to stop because all you need is the internet and a smartphone. And smartphone adoption here is very high, even though the banking infra is less developed. For between bits that makes Southeast Asia a natural first market. It's close to Korea, the population is young and dollar friendly, and governments here are often surprisingly open to new financial innovations. Add to that Korea's cultural influence in the region from K-pop or something, and it gives us some advantage. Altogether, it's the ideal environment to launch Bitcoin and stablecoin based services. That's why we have incorporated our subsidiaries in both Singapore and Vietnam.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And you've mentioned government sandboxes in places like Vietnam. How do they accelerate innovation for companies like yours?
Yeah, in the past, actually, countries like Vietnam were very restrictive on crypto, banning circulation and offering no real support for the industry. But since last year, with the US approving Bitcoin ETF and actively encouraging stable coins, the mood here has shifted 180 degrees. Take Ho Chi Minh City. It's not a capital, but it's the country's heartbeat, full of young energy and optimism. And the government is now channeling that energy into blockchain. Through the Vietnam Blockchain Association, we have seen their strong commitment to creating clear regulations and fostering growth. That's where sandboxes come in. They let startups like Between Bits work hand in hand with local banks and fintechs, test new ideas under regulatory guidance, and scale more quickly. It's a win for us, but also for the government and the people there who benefit from innovation.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced building in this space, whether regulatory, technical, or cultural?
Without question, regulation has been the biggest challenge. Just like any other innovative domain, as I mentioned earlier, the good news is that those barriers are getting more lenient and the markets are opening now. But, Leanne, the challenge is not only about regulation itself. The real issue is that companies like ours, startups that deeply understand the innovation points that are technologically and operationally prepared, often don't get the first opportunity to open new markets. Instead, some governments choose to open doors exclusively to large corporations. And that's not good. I think innovation by nature comes faster and fresher from startups. I mean, from people who are not afraid to take risks. And I would add, when local enterprises or governments work with startups like ours, they often retain more control and more agency compared to working with global giants. My hope is that regulators and partners recognize this. Because if they do, the benefits of this industry will spread more quickly and more inclusively. Just like when the small group travels, the locals can play a better role than when big resorts occupy the area.
Right. And Shawn, how do you see partnerships with traditional players like banks, remittance companies, and governments shaping adoption?
We specialize in crypto innovation and technology, but payments and remittances are heavily regulated spaces. Things like KYC, anti-money laundering, and licensing are what banks, remittance firms, and fintech players do better than us. So that's why I see partnerships as essential. We bring the crypto native expertise, while traditional players provide regulatory compliance, licensing frameworks, and establish connections to financial infrastructure. If we collaborate in that way, I believe we can play a meaningful role in this rapidly growing market and help accelerate adoption in a responsible and sustainable way.
So you're seeing it really as a partnership, not as replacing, the traditional um, financial institutions, but really working with them to offer more options. Yeah. Where do you see Bitcoin and the Lightning Network in the next 5 to 10 years?
Whoa, 5 to 10 years. Well, to be honest, it's hard to predict an exact timelines because, the world is very complex. But what I can say with confidence is that Bitcoin and the Lightning Network will only grow stronger thanks to their fundamental advantage in energy efficiency. The wave of change will be massive and disruptive because it even challenges the post-World War II framework of national borders. Of course, the legacy players will resist, but the winners will be those who move quickly, adopting Bitcoin and Lightning in ways that mix and match with today's financial systems. At this pace, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, Bitcoin and Lightning is becoming key parts of the global financial infra. Of course, led by those willing to embrace change early.
Yeah, and that is key, right? Those willing to embrace the change that is coming anyway, right?
Yeah.
Uh, what role do you envision between bits playing in reshaping global payments?
Well, our team's vision for Between Bits is to serve as a guide and partner for traditional financial players. They adopt Bitcoin and the Lightning. The specific model basically will vary depending on the jurisdiction, the type of player, and their stance toward crypto, but the core idea is clear. We provide the crypto infra and expertise while they bring compliance, brand trust, and connections to existing financial systems. Together, that partnership can reshape global payments, making them faster, cheaper, and more open without leaving legacy players behind.
Yes. And Shawn, what message would you like to share with businesses that are hesitant about adopting Bitcoin or blockchain solutions?
I'd like to say that Bitcoin adoption isn't a question of if, it's a question of when. It's the most energy efficient form of money we have ever had. And in our universe, there's no principle higher than energy efficiency. So, if you accept that, the hesitation really comes down to just one thing: timing. Once you see it that way, I think the decision becomes simpler. It's not about if Bitcoin will matter, it's about when you want to be part of it. I would say the faster, the better.
Yeah. And for entrepreneurs listening, what lessons from your journey would you pass on to those building in fast changing industries?
Dr. Leanne, I don't think I'm qualified enough to pass any lessons for them, but if I had to share something from my experience and struggles I have faced as an entrepreneur, I would say there are many startups like ours that face a very challenging path. The challenges come from facing regulation barriers, competition with large corporations, or biases shaped by public perception. Everything can wither your spirit. Personally, I believe life is ultimately about finding meaning, and the wave of change that the Bitcoin network is bringing offers so many opportunities for that, more than almost any other field I know. So, to all the entrepreneurs walking a similar path, I want to offer encouragement and solidarity. We are in this together, and I truly believe the journey will be worth it.
That's great advice. Yeah. See, you are qualified. Definitely. That's very good insight. Well, Shawn, thank you for sharing your story and the exciting work you are leading at Between Bits. For listeners who want to learn more or connect with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, sure, we use pretty much everything, but the best way would be to reach out through LinkedIn. Simply search Shawn Kim, SHAWN and Kim. Also, you can search the website betweenbits.io, and you can find the email address, phone number, pretty much everything there. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, and to everyone tuning in, make sure to follow and subscribe to Industry Ignited so you don't miss future episodes. And until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.